The day my fiancé got engaged to the true heiress, I wanted to drive my car straight into the ceremony, to die with them. But before I could act on that madness, my phone began to ring over and over again. It was the hospital. "Miss Sarah, we've confirmed you're pregnant." My fingers went numb, and the car engine sputtered out. I sat there, motionless, as wedding bells chimed faintly in the distance half an hour later. Instead of driving to the ceremony, I turned the car around and headed straight for the airport. That was the day the fake heiress of the Sterling family vanished from New York, just as everyone wanted. I traveled thousands of miles away to a quiet little town where no one knew my name. There, clinging to the last thread of willpower I had left, I brought my daughter into the world. My own flesh and blood. And after that, I never looked back. I cut every tie, erased every trace of who I used to be. Until 4 years later, when the past decided to find me again. It happened at the kindergarten gate. I was waiting for Lily when a mother standing nearby leaned toward me and whispered, "Hey, Lily's mom, look across the street. Doesn't that guy look just like that famous singer? What's his name?" I glanced up. "Liam." "That's it. Liam," she said, snapping her fingers. "You really don't recognize him? He's been everywhere these past few years. Awards, interviews, concerts. Honestly, he kind of looks like you. You've both got that refined face." I forced a small smile. "I wouldn't know." I tightened my grip on Lily's hand and started walking away. Then I heard it. Sarah Sterling. That voice. I kept moving. Sarah Sterling. Lily blinked up at me, confused. "Mommy, is that man calling you? Why does he say Sarah Sterling?" "He's mistaken," I said softly, still smiling as if nothing was wrong. But before I could open the car door, someone caught my arm. I turned, and there he was, Liam, his breath uneven, his eyes rimmed red. "Sarah, you're alive?" His voice trembled, sharp as ever, but laced with disbelief. After dropping Lily off at a neighbor's, I headed back downstairs. Liam was there, hands shoved into his pockets, staring at me. "Why are you living here? Where's your real place?" "I'm coming up to see it," he said. I shook my head firmly. "There's no need." For years ago, he'd made one thing perfectly clear. Celeste was his only sister. Anyone like me was nothing to him. He'd even said the thought of calling me family disgusted him. Back then, when I was cast out of the Sterling family, abandoned by Julian Blackwood, with nowhere to turn, I had once considered reaching out to him, my biological brother. One snowy night, I had stood outside his company building until I nearly froze. All I had received in return were words sharp as knives. "If you hadn't been born, Celeste wouldn't have been swapped, and she wouldn't have suffered so much." "Sister? That's a joke. The Sterlings don't want you, and now you think our blood ties mean something? I'd never recognize someone like you as my sister." That day, I learned something crucial. No matter how kind I was, no matter how much I reached out, he hated me because of Celeste. Now, he studied me again, frowning, his gaze cold. "That child, is she Julian's? Did you run away just to have his baby?" I paused. Then I spoke evenly. "She's mine. Mine alone." A bitter laugh twisted his lips. "Sarah, that girl is a carbon copy of him. You really think I wouldn't notice? You thought that by secretly having his child, you could win him back? Are you insane, pathetic?" "I said she's mine alone," I interrupted sharply. "I never ran away to compete with your sister for Julian, nor would I, ever. You don't need to be so cruel. As you said back then, apart from blood, we're strangers. I have no interest in your life, and I ask you not to meddle in mine." For a moment he froze. "If there's nothing else, please leave," I said and started to walk away. "Wait," he called, sudden urgency in his voice. Before I could react, he grabbed my arm. He opened his mouth, then closed it, struggling to find words. Why did you leave back then?" I glanced at him quietly, letting him continue. "You were a pampered heiress, a life of ease. Could a few harsh words really make you vanish with the baby? If I hadn't run into you, how much longer? How did you survive these 4 years?" I watched as his eyes reddened slightly, a mix of anger and disbelief. He couldn't fathom that I was alive, that my existence posed a quiet threat to Celeste's world. How had I survived? Someone else had sacrificed for me. But that was my secret. The old Sarah Sterling would have clung to help, cried for protection, depended on others. The new Sarah Blackwood had learned long ago to stand on her own. My silence seemed to unsettle him further. "No, why are you so changed? Did that earthquake in your remote town scramble your mind? Running off like that. Now you're paying the price, he said, tension lacing his words. Just then, a neighbor walked past, calling out cheerfully, "Hey Sarah, isn't it almost dinner?" I smiled politely. "Almost." Liam stiffened. "You should leave." I met his gaze but didn't answer. He pressed on, gripping my arm. "Why change your name? Blackwood? Did you marry? Whose name is that?" I shrugged off his hand, speaking deliberately. "Whose name it is and how I live my life has nothing to do with you. You don't get a say in either." Liam didn't leave. Instead, he followed me at a distance as I walked back toward my apartment building, his expensive shoes clicking against the pavement, a sound that felt alien in this humble neighborhood. "Sarah, wait. It's Ms. Blackwood now," I corrected without turning around. When I reached my door, he was still there, lingering like a ghost I couldn't shake. I turned to face him properly this time, arms crossed. "What do you want, Liam? To report back to Celeste that you found me? To assure her that I'm not plotting some grand return to steal her life?" The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't regret them. His jaw tightened. "That's not. Or maybe you're here to threaten me. Warn me to stay away from Julian?" I laughed bitterly. "You can save your breath. I have zero interest in any of them. I came because—" He faltered, running a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I remembered from years ago. "Because I need to know you're okay." The audacity of it made my blood run cold. "Now you care if I'm okay?" My voice dropped to barely above a whisper. 4 years ago, when I stood outside your office in the snow for 3 hours, where was this concern? When your precious Celeste convinced everyone I was the villain in her story, where were you? "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I corrected. "There's a difference." A window opened above us, and Mrs. Chun poked her head out. "Sarah, dear, is everything all right? Should I call someone?" I looked up and smiled. "Everything's fine, Mrs. Chun. My old acquaintance was just leaving." Liam's expression shifted as he took in the scene, the concerned neighbor, the modest building, the life I'd built without any of them. Something flickered across his face that might have been regret. "I'm staying at the Grand Hotel downtown," he said quietly, pulling out a business card. "If you need anything." "I won't." But despite myself, I took the card. "Old habits." He hesitated, glancing at the building entrance. "That little girl, Lily. She really does look like—" "Good night, Liam." I turned and walked inside, not giving him the satisfaction of finishing that sentence. Through the lobby window, I watched him stand there for a long moment before finally walking away. Only when his figure disappeared around the corner did I allow myself to breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor. "Lily's fed and happy. Take your time." I leaned against the wall, card still in my hand. Liam's number stared back at me, along with his professional title, CEO, Sterling Entertainment. Of course. He'd taken over the family business after all. While I'd been struggling to survive, he'd been building an empire on the foundation of the family that cast me out. I crumpled the card and tossed it in the trash. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. The next morning, I dropped Lily off at kindergarten as usual, her little backpack bouncing as she ran toward her friends. She turned and waved, her smile bright enough to chase away any lingering darkness from the night before. "Love you, Mommy. Love you more, sweetheart." I had a rare day off from the cafe where I worked, so I decided to stock up on groceries. The local market was busy, filled with the familiar faces of neighbors and the comforting chaos of daily life. I was comparing prices on rice when I felt it, that prickle on the back of your neck, when someone's watching you. I turned slowly. Julian Blackwood stood 3 aisles away, frozen with a basket in his hand, staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. My heart didn't race. It didn't break. It simply paused, like my body needed a moment to remember how to function in his presence. He looked different. Thinner. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there 4 years ago, and his usually perfect appearance seemed slightly disheveled. His hair was longer, curling slightly at the ends. We locked eyes for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only seconds. Then I turned back to my shopping, selected the rice, and moved on to the next aisle. I heard his footsteps behind me. Fast. Urgent. "Sarah." I continued scanning the shelf for cooking oil. "Sarah, please. I need to talk to you." "Canola or vegetable?" I murmured to myself, reaching for the canola. "Sarah Sterling, damn it, would you just—" I spun around, my voice cutting through his desperation with surgical precision. That's not my name anymore. And we have nothing to discuss. His basket clattered to the floor, groceries spilling everywhere. An elderly woman nearby gasped. I looked for you, he said, his voice cracking. For months.
Years.
I hired investigators, checked hospitals' morgues, his breath hitched. We thought you were dead. The earthquake in that region, you were reported missing, and I thought. You thought wrong. I bent to help pick up his scattered items, if only to have something to do with my hands. I survived. I rebuilt. And I moved on. With my child. I stilled, a can of tomatoes halfway to his basket. Liam called me last night, Julian continued, dropping to his knees beside me. Up close, I could see the exhaustion etched into every line of his face. He told me about the little girl. Sarah, if she's mine. She's mine, I interrupted firmly, standing up and leaving him on the floor with his groceries. Mine alone. You have no claim to her, no right to her, no place in her life. I started to walk away, but his voice stopped me one more time. I never married her. My hand tightened on my shopping basket, but I didn't turn around. Celeste and we didn't go through with it. The wedding was called off. Against my better judgment, I looked back. And you think that changes anything? I think. He stood slowly, hands trembling. I think I made the biggest mistake of my life. I think I've spent 4 years in hell wondering if you were alive, hating myself for not seeing what was right in front of me. I think. You think too late, I said softly. Whatever happened between you and Celeste is your business. But I'm not interested in being anyone's regret, Julian. I'm not a prize you lost and now want back. I'm not a chapter in your redemption story. Then what are you? I smiled, and it was genuine. I'm happy. Maybe for the first time in my life, I'm actually happy. And you're not part of that happiness anymore. I walked away then, and this time, he didn't follow. But as I stood in the checkout line, I caught sight of him through the window, sitting in his car with his head in his hands. And for just a moment, the briefest, most foolish moment, I felt something that might have been pity. Then Lily's face flashed through my mind, and that moment passed. I should have known that seeing Liam and Julian meant the rest would follow. The Sterlings had never been subtle, and they certainly weren't about to start now. It was Saturday morning. Lily and I were at the park, her favorite place, where she could run wild on the playground while I sat on a bench with a book I was never actually reading, too busy watching her instead. Higher, Mommy. Push me higher. I obliged, sending her soaring on the swing, her delighted laughter filling the air. These simple moments were everything I'd fought for, everything that made the last 4 years worthwhile. She has your smile. I spun around so fast, I nearly knocked over the woman standing behind me. Margaret Sterling, my former adoptive mother, dressed in cream cashmere despite the warm weather, pearls at her throat, every inch the society matriarch. Mrs. Sterling, I said coolly, positioning myself between her and Lily. This is unexpected, is it? Her eyes never left Lily, drinking in every detail. Liam said he found you. I didn't believe him at first. We held a memorial for you 2 years ago, Sarah. The entire family mourned. How touching. Her gaze finally snapped to mine, and I saw something I didn't expect. Tears. Real, genuine tears welling in her perfectly made-up eyes. We thought you were dead, she whispered. The earthquake, the missing persons reports, we thought we'd lost you. You threw me away long before that earthquake. My voice remained steady, despite the trembling I felt inside. You chose Celeste. You all did. So, what does it matter now if I'm dead or alive? Mommy, who's that? Lily had climbed off the swing and was tugging at my sleeve, looking up at Margaret with curious eyes. Margaret's breath caught audibly. Oh my God. How old is she? Old enough to have a life that doesn't concern you, I said, picking Lily up despite her protests that she was too big for that. We should go, sweetheart. Wait. Margaret reached out, then dropped her hand when I stepped back. Please. I know I have no right to ask, but can we talk? Just for a few minutes. Mommy, is that a bad lady? Lily whispered loudly, making Margaret flinch. No, baby. She's just someone Mommy used to know. I should have walked away. Every instinct screamed at me to protect my daughter from these people who had hurt me so deeply. But something in Margaret's expression, a vulnerability I'd never seen before, made me hesitate. 5 minutes, I said. At that coffee shop across the street. But Lily stays with Mrs. Chen. After dropping Lily off with my neighbor, who gave Margaret a very suspicious once-over, I met the woman who had raised me for 18 years at the small cafe I usually avoided because it was too expensive. Margaret ordered 2 lattes without asking what I wanted. Some habits died hard. I came to apologize, she began, hands wrapped around her cup as if seeking warmth. I know it's too late, that words can't undo what we did to you, but I need you to hear this. Go ahead. I didn't touch my coffee. When Celeste came back into our lives, I was overwhelmed. She was the daughter I'd mourned for 18 years. Every time I looked at her, I saw the baby I'd lost, and I convinced myself that making up for lost time meant giving her everything, including things that should have remained yours. Like my home, my family, my fiancé. She winced. Julian made his own choices, influenced by all of you. I leaned forward. Do you know what it was like, Margaret? Watching my entire life be dismantled piece by piece? Every birthday, every achievement, every memory I had with the Sterling family, erased, as if I never existed, as if 18 years meant nothing. They meant everything, she said, tears now falling freely. Sarah, you are my daughter. You are my daughter. Blood or not, I raised you. I loved you. I got lost in the guilt of what happened to Celeste. And what about your guilt for what you did to me? Silence. Finally, Margaret spoke, her voice barely audible. That little girl. She's Julian's, isn't she? I stood up. This conversation is over. Sarah. You want to know what the worst part was? I looked down at her. This woman who had once meant the world to me. It wasn't losing Julian, or even losing the Sterling name. It was realizing that your love was conditional. That I was only valuable when I was useful, when I fit the role you needed. The moment someone better came along, your real daughter, I became disposable. That's not true. Isn't it? I grabbed my purse. You have 4 minutes left of your 5, but I'm done. Don't contact me again. Don't come near my daughter. And tell Celeste she got what she wanted. I'm out of her life. She can stop looking over her shoulder now. Celeste doesn't know I'm here, Margaret admitted. She doesn't know you're alive. That stopped me. She's been unwell. Mentally. Ever since the wedding was cancelled, she's been convinced you're somehow haunting her, punishing her from beyond the grave. Margaret's laugh was bitter. Ironic, isn't it? She got everything she wanted, and it destroyed her. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sympathy. Just a vast, empty space where my feelings about Celeste used to be. That's not my problem, I said. And I meant it. I thought that would be the end of it. Foolish of me, really. The Sterlings had never known when to quit. Monday afternoon, I was working my shift at Moonbeam Cafe, serving regulars and wiping down tables, when the bell above the door chimed. Celeste Sterling walked in. She looked terrible. Her signature blonde hair was dull, pulled into a messy ponytail. The designer clothes hung loose on her frame, and her skin had a grayish tint that no amount of makeup could hide. But her eyes, those were what startled me. They were wild, darting around the cafe, like she expected something to jump out at her. Our eyes met, and she went white as a sheet. No, she whispered. No, no, no. You're not real. You're not. Celeste, I said calmly, order pad still in hand. Can I get you something? She stumbled backward, knocking into a chair. Several customers looked up from their laptops and books. You're dead. You died in the earthquake. They told me you were dead. My coworker, Jenna, appeared at my elbow. Sarah, do you know this woman? Should I call someone? It's fine, I assured her, though I wasn't sure it was. She's just confused. I approached Celeste slowly, as one might approach a frightened animal. Let's take this outside, okay? Don't touch me. She swatted my hand away. You're trying to trick me. Julian said you were gone. Liam said. Her voice rose to a near shriek. Why won't you stay gone? The cafe had gone silent. Everyone was staring. Outside. Now. I grabbed her arm firmly and pulled her through the door. The moment we were on the sidewalk, she wrenched free, pressing herself against the brick wall as if I might attack her. I didn't take anything from you that you weren't happy to give, she hissed, tears streaming down her face. You left. You ran away like a coward. You're right. I agreed, crossing my arms. I did leave. Best decision I ever made. That seemed to throw her. What? Celeste, I'm not here to haunt you or punish you. I'm not plotting revenge. I'm just living my life. A life that has nothing to do with you or Julian or the Sterlings. Then why are you here? She demanded. Why this town? Why now? I've been here for 4 years. You're the ones who found me, remember? I was perfectly content never seeing any of you again. She slid down the wall, sitting on the pavement in her expensive jeans, looking nothing like the polished heiress I remembered. He still loves you, you know. Julian. He never stopped. Even when we were planning the wedding, he'd say your name in his sleep. I should have walked away. Should have gone back inside and let her spiral. But something made me sit down beside her, right there on the dirty sidewalk. If that's true, I said quietly, then you and I have something in common.
What?
We both loved men who didn't love us back enough. She turned to look at me, really look at me, for maybe the first time ever. He chose you, I continued. Maybe not with his whole heart, but he made that choice. And I chose to stop waiting for someone who would always see me as second best. We both deserved better than what we got. I ruined your life, she whispered.
No.
You made it harder, but I'm the one who rebuilt it. And, honestly, I stood up, brushing off my jeans. I like this version better. No pretending, no trying to be perfect enough to keep people from leaving. Just me and my daughter, and a small life that's actually mine. Daughter? Her eyes widened. You have a... Don't. My voice sharpened. Whatever you're thinking, stop. She's not part of this, and she never will be. Celeste struggled to her feet. For a moment, I thought she might argue. Instead, she just nodded slowly. I'm sorry, she said. I know it doesn't help, I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. I almost laughed. You know what the funny thing is? I actually believe you. But sorry doesn't give me back those years, Celeste. It doesn't erase the pain or the struggle or the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering what I did wrong to deserve all of it. I know. So what now? You go back to New York and tell everyone I'm alive? Start the whole circus over again. She shook her head. I'm in therapy. Finally. My doctor says I need to make amends, but also to let go. I think. Her voice cracked. I think this is me letting go. Before I could respond, she turned and walked away, shoulders hunched, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I went back inside, where Jenna was waiting with wide eyes and a million questions. Girl, she said, handing me a fresh apron. Your life is way more dramatic than mine. Despite everything, I laughed. I managed 3 peaceful days before Julian showed up at my apartment. It was late, past 10 p.m. Lily was asleep, and I was finally settling into the quiet that had become my sanctuary. Then came the knock. Through the peephole I saw him, still in a business suit despite the hour, hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. I should have ignored it. Should have pretended I wasn't home. Instead, I opened the door just wide enough to block his view inside. It's late.
I know. I'm sorry.
He exhaled shakily. I need to know. Is she mine? Go home, Julian. Sarah, please. I've been standing out here for an hour trying to work up the courage to knock. Just tell me the truth. That little girl, is she my daughter? Why does it matter? I asked tiredly. Why does any of this matter now? Because if she's mine, I've missed 4 years of her life. His voice rose, then dropped when I shushed him.
For years, Sarah.
Her first steps, first words, birthdays. And whose fault is that? I stepped into the hallway, pulling the door shut behind me. You made your choice. You chose Celeste, chose the life your family wanted, chose everything except me. Now you want to waltz in and play father? I didn't know you were pregnant. Would it have mattered? The question hung between us like a knife. Would you have chosen differently if you'd known? His silence was answer enough. That's what I thought. I turned to go back inside. Wait. He grabbed my wrist gently, desperately. It would have mattered. God, Sarah, it would have changed everything. I would have. Would have what? Still married Celeste, but visited our bastard child on weekends? Set us up in some apartment like a dirty secret. I pulled my hand free. I didn't want to be anyone's obligation, Julian. I wanted to be chosen.
Loved.
Put first. I did love you. Not enough. The words came out softer than I intended. You loved me, but you loved your family's approval more. You loved the idea of making things right with Celeste more. And I get it, I do. But it doesn't change the fact that when it mattered most, you chose her. The wedding didn't happen, he said urgently. I called it off 3 days before. I couldn't do it. Every time I looked at her, I saw you. Every time I tried to imagine our future, you were there instead. Good for you. I meant it to sound sarcastic, but it came out sad. But Julian, that doesn't mean you get a medal for not marrying the wrong person. And it definitely doesn't give you rights to my daughter. Our daughter. Mine. I corrected firmly. I went through the pregnancy alone. I gave birth alone. I stayed up all night with a colicky newborn alone. I've been her entire world for 4 years, me, not you. Biology doesn't make you a father. His face crumpled, and I hated how part of me still wanted to comfort him. Old habits really did die hard. Can I at least meet her? He asked quietly. Not as her father. Just meet her?
No.
Sarah. No, Julian. You don't get to disrupt her life because you're feeling guilty or nostalgic or whatever this is.
She's happy.
She's stable. She has a routine and friends and a life that doesn't include drama or complicated family dynamics. I won't risk her emotional well-being just to ease your conscience. What about her right to know her father? What about her right to a childhood that isn't tainted by adults who can't get their shit together? I shot back. You want to know the real reason I left, Julian? It wasn't just heartbreak. It was realizing that the world you all lived in, the Sterlings, the society games, the conditional love, that wasn't a world I wanted my child growing up in. He looked stricken. I'm not asking to take her away or turn her life upside down. I need to know her. Please. I stared at him for a long moment. This man I had once loved so completely it consumed me. He looked broken in a way I'd never seen, vulnerable in a way he'd never allowed himself to be when we were together. If you had come to me 4 years ago, I said slowly, when I needed you most, when I was scared and alone and didn't know how I was going to survive, if you had been there then, none of this would be an issue. But you weren't. And I built a life without you. A good life. I know. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. His voice cracked. But please, don't punish our daughter for my mistakes. I'm not punishing anyone, I said wearily. I'm protecting her. There's a difference. I went back inside and closed the door, leaving Julian standing in the hallway. I leaned against it, eyes closed, trying to calm my racing heart. From the bedroom, I heard a small voice. Mommy? I hurried to Lily's room. She was sitting up in bed, rubbing her eyes. Hey, baby. Did I wake you? Who were you talking to? No one important. I lied, tucking her back in. Just a neighbor. Go back to sleep.
She yawned.
Okay. Mommy? Yes, sweetheart. I love you. My eyes burned with unshed tears. I love you too, Lily. More than anything in the world. After she drifted back to sleep, I sat in the living room in the dark, Liam's crumpled business card somehow back in my hand. I'd fished it out of the trash at some point, muscle memory perhaps, or the universe's cruel joke. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number.
I'm sorry.
For everything. But I'm not giving up. She deserves to know both her parents.
Jay.
I deleted the message and blocked the number. But as I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The Sterlings never did know how to let go. 2 weeks passed in relative peace. No more surprise visits, no more confrontations. I started to think maybe, just maybe, they'd finally gotten the message. I should have known better. It was Lily's 4th birthday. I'd thrown together a small party at the apartment. Mrs. Chun and her grandson, Jenna from work and her daughter, a few kids from kindergarten. Nothing fancy, just cake and streamers and the sound of children laughing. Lily was in heaven, wearing the princess dress I'd stayed up late sewing for her, her face painted with butterflies. Make a wish, birthday girl. I held the cake as she squeezed her eyes shut, thinking hard before blowing out the candles in one breath. Everyone cheered. I was cutting the first slice when my phone rang. Unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again. And again. Sorry, I need to take this. I apologized, stepping into the bedroom. What? I answered tersely. Miss Sarah Blackwood? An unfamiliar woman's voice. Professional. Cold. Speaking. This is Linda Chun from Sterling and Associates Law Firm. I'm calling regarding a custody petition that's been filed. The phone slipped from my hand. Custody petition. The words echoed in my head as I scrambled to pick up the phone. I'm sorry, what did you say? Mr. Julian Blackwood has filed for joint custody of Lily Blackwood, DOB. He can't do that. My voice sounded distant, not my own. He's not on the birth certificate. He has no legal rights. A paternity test has been requested. If proven to be the biological father, Mr. Blackwood will have grounds for. I hung up. For a moment, I just stood there, paralyzed. Then fury, hot and overwhelming, surged through me. He wouldn't dare. But clearly he had. From the living room, I heard Lily's laughter, pure and innocent and completely unaware that her world was about to be turned upside down. I straightened my shoulders, smoothed my dress, and walked back out with a smile that felt like it might crack my face in half. Who wants more cake? I called out brightly. The party continued. I laughed at the right moments, took pictures, handed out party favors. I was the perfect mother, the gracious host. Inside, I was plotting. If Julian wanted a war, I'd give him one. But this time, I wasn't the naive girl who'd loved him blindly. I was a mother protecting her child.